tonight we are definitely discussing a very necessary condition for election 2012. Cannot actually factor it out of the equation for it. And it's not just for election time, for all times in a country to, as it were, keep the cement in place and us, the blocks of society, in check. And for those who go out of it, to be whipped back into form. We're talking about policing in an election year with specific reference to the Ghana Police Service. I'm not just talking about any kind of policing. But I think that it's important, if we may, to make reference to Chapter 15 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, 1992, that is, because that is where we have provisions on the police service. Of course, there's an act of parliament on this, but the Constitution being the supreme law would always be the source from where this comes. So, under Article 200, Clause 1 says that there shall be a police service of Ghana. 2, no person on authority shall raise any police service except by or under the authority of an act of parliament. And 3, the police service shall be equipped and maintained to perform its traditional role in maintaining law and order. Article 201 is on the Police Council, which consists the Vice President as chairman, Minister responsible for internal affairs, Inspector General of Police. Okay, all right, we know about the vice presidential part. It's something we can talk about. AG, a lawyer from the Ghana Bar Association, retired senior police association, 2 members of the police service appointed by the president, and the 2 other members appointed by the president. There's an IGP position and appointment to the service. There are functions of the police council and then the regional police committee. That is all under Chapter 15 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. And we shall be looking at this. Of course, many remember that there was a rift between President Rawlings and Vice President Akar in this country at some point. And so the question arose as to whether the vice president ceased to be an automatic chairman of this, but a person appointed by the president to serve as chairman of the police council is what we have, and then leading to the situation where we now say that the vice president performs functions as ascribed to him by the president in reality. But we are looking at these issues. You know that with the biometric registration ongoing currently, we are talking about police service, we are raising issues, Tafo Pankrono, Dodo, and it's on the radio, it's on the newspapers every day of our lives. The police service is involved. Recently, we know about Honorable Kennedy Ejapong. We've been discussing this. We've been talking about the police service as well. All over. The question is, the real peak will be December 7, 2012. And what will happen? Are the police ready? Are they able? Are they equipped? If you have views ahead of the discussion, send them to 1760 by text across all mobile networks at the cost of 30 pesos per text. Facebook.com/MultiTV PM Express is the address on Facebook by which you can reach us. In the studio with us on my immediate left, Dr. Ken Ahosu is a research fellow at the Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy, University of Ghana, Legon. Thank you for coming, Doc.
Thank you.
From the far end of the table, Chief Superintendent David Eklu is a Shaiman Divisional Police Commander. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Let's go straight to action. We're talking about policing in an election year. This is a critical year for us, as we say. And ordinarily, I think that I was almost tempted to begin with a police officer, but I won't. Because I think that sometimes an outside view also helps when you set the ball rolling. So I'll begin with you, Doc, and ask you,
that's fine.
What is the state of preparedness, as far as you are concerned, of the Ghana Police Service in this critical election year?
Well, generally, the United Nations says the ratio of the police to the population, that is, 1 policeman should be 500. But in Ghana, we have 1,080 persons to 1 police person. So we have this rate, which I'll call a rate of attrition. So from this perspective, there is a disadvantage. But I don't think that the police service is not ready to manage crisis in Ghana. And not only the police, my center, Cranfield University, and the Ghana Armed Forces have been having a lot of training for crisis and conflict management. And not only the police, but the military can be called in when necessary. Customs and excise can be called in when necessary, and a fire service and the rest. So I think that in terms of readiness, we have enough readiness in terms of training and in terms of personal professionalism. I think what you would be further asking is their professionalism and whether they will be non-partisan and whether Ghanaians themselves will make things feasible. Because no matter how police are prepared, no matter their numbers, when there is a mass rebellion and the people make it unnecessary to be governed, there will always be chaos.
All right. So that's your introduction. And as I was saying, Chief Superintendent, I was reminding you of an interview we did when I was a radio presenter over 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's correct.
And it tells me you've been in the police service for a very long time. How many years?
Oh, on the average, 18 years.
On the average, 18 years.
Yeah.
That's a very long time, which tells me that you have seen all the elections in this country under the Fourth Republic.
Yes.
As a police officer.
Yes.
Great. So let's now go into it and ask you, looking at what has happened in the past, 2012, is it any different in terms of the challenge it poses for the police service this year, or is the same as all that has happened and that really nothing new is in the offing?
I would say that the trend has been the same since the inception of the Fourth Republic. During election years, the police are always, like I put it like on the firing line. There are accusations from ruling government. There are accusations from the political parties saying that the police is biased, and these sentiments are expressed. But I think that 2012 has begun too early, and the intensity is something that we need to think about. Yeah.
So it's begun too early, and the intensity you have to think about. But how do you feel as a police service? Because particularly you are in Ashaiman, and Ashaiman is really one of the hot spots as far as elections in this country are concerned. I've covered elections on the ground, by phone, etc. In 2000, the Crouch election, I was there. I saw what happened, the blockade of roads, etc., and all of that, the burning of tires and things like that. Really, are you ready for your division right this year? Are you prepared? Are you happy with what you have? Do you wish for more?
Certainly, I'm not happy with what we have, the state that we are now. Because, as you rightly pointed out, Ashaiman is one of the hotspots.
Absolutely.
But we have been able to manage situations so far. The registration is in the third phase. We haven't had any major upheaval in Ashaiman, just as like other parts of the country. And then we need certainly more logistics. We need certainly more personnel, and we need certain facilities to be able to contain the situation in Ashaiman in particular. Yeah.
You first mentioned, Doc, the issue of the police not meeting the United Nations recommended ratio, so to speak. Do you think that it is something that we should be worried about, and that between now and December, that the police should be looking at beefing up its numbers?
Well, I know there are a lot of contingency plans. There are a number, I think, close to 2,000 or so who are in depot now, and some will be graduating before the elections takes off, and they've just made another enlistment. I'm not very sure if the last enlisted people or interviewed people to say would be graduating before then. But as I would say, it is not the question of the physical presence of policemen that will deter people. What is essential is that there should be a lot of peace education, preventive education now that should take place, because there is no point. I am a very old man, but I've never been to the police station to answer a question. So if people learn as to conduct themselves properly, then it will be easy for all of us. But one thing I want to point out is that this biometric registration is new. It's something that is being done the first time. Formerly, registration of people did not cause so much problem. Normally, it is when the data is put out there that people say this data is bloated or that sort of thing. But it is clear now that there will not be any bloating of data. So people want to make sure that whatsoever goes into it is right. And again, I think sometimes we should not cry wolf. Ghana is quite a large country. How many places have we had upheavals? How many places have there been crises? It started somewhere in Kumasi or Ashanti region. But then nothing came out of it. The police contained it. And I remember the regional commander came out and said that Kumasi should not be tagged as a crisis region. The same applies largely in the Volta region, Greater Accra even. It's only 1 or 2 places. So I think what the issue is that sometimes the press, the way they embellish issue, and most importantly, politicians want to have a say on something. So instead of discussing real issues, sometimes they make noise about nothing. So I think what we should really be doing is what? Educating people. Parents should be educating their children. Churches should be educating their members. The press should be very professional. And when this education is in place, and we know that democracy and elections are actually for progressive reasons, things that will catapult us into the future, then we do nothing to what? To destroy the process. So I don't think that Ghana is in a crisis situation. And for that matter, we should all start crying and say something is happening. I think wherever there are excesses, the police are there. And the most important thing, as I've been saying for the last 3 days, is that the police must be allowed to do their work. And I think some of us are being proved right.
Chief, let me get a sense of what's happening within the service itself right now, in the face of all the issues we're talking about. Remember the DSP Awuni against the Member of Parliament, former Greater Accra Regional Minister clash, made a lot of news. Remember what happened in Tafo Pankrono, DSP Ofori's name came up in there, and there's a few people have come up as well in terms of arrest and Obi Amwa, Woyome. We have quite a number of topical matters this year so far, and they have necessarily involved the police, even if you are not the ones necessarily doing the prosecution, even if it has started with you going to service and all. What is the sense of all that is happening within the service now? How do you feel as police officers? Do you feel under attack? Do you feel unfairly treated? Do you feel it's normal? What is the kind of discussion you are having amongst yourselves?
Yes, under attack, not to that extent. Disturbed, not to the extent of even stopping us from doing our work. No, a lot of police officers are going about their duties. If you measure, like what the doctor said, we have the whole country is going through this exercise.
Sure.
And it's just about 2 or 3 places that we think that is coming up. But people are doing that. For example, if you take a chairman like this, we have been able to contain the situation very well. We started right away by identifying the various stakeholders in the elections. We have had a series of meetings with them. Personally went and spoke to the youth in Ashaman. And we had meetings. We used the IPAC machinery to have discussions. And it is paying off. I think that other police officers are also doing the same in other parts of the country. So I don't think that the feeling the service, we are concerned because it looks like people are picking on 1 or 2 issues to generalize this and think that, well, the police service is not capable of handling elections. We have the track record, and every police officer would want to defend that track record and not go back. We want to improve on what we have achieved so far. So the service, everybody is going about his or her duties, normal duties. We are only concerned about the exaggeration and sometimes misrepresentation of facts as per the few cases that we have now.
So there's no sense of despondency, like
not at all,
a sense of not feeling appreciated for what you're doing when as you say, the misrepresentations occur or misreporting, and all those things happen. You don't feel as if really your efforts are not being appreciated. You don't feel as if your job has become thankless.
Well, there might be that, but that would not petrify us and deter us from doing our work. Yes. But it appears as if, like you said, the dramatic aspect of policing makes news.
Right.
But the other aspects, a lot of police officers are doing education. A lot of police officers go to the biometric registration, not necessarily to make arrests, but talk to people, issue warning, and advise people, and there's peace. But those ones don't make news. But the dramatic aspect, an arrest has been made, somebody has been shot, those are the things that make news. So it appears as if these few ones are following the traditional news, reporting line, and the very serious ones that we are doing on the ground are left unreported. But we are well focused, I can tell you that.
You're well focused. Sorry, let me stay with you just for this moment again, for a particular reason. Again, we had a lot of reports, and these days the fashionable word is reportage all over the place. But I say reports, a lot of them we've seen pictures, especially Ododo, they say some people wielding arms. There's impunity.
Yeah.
Young people are able to walk bare-chested, carrying machetes, and exacting their own form of justice on people. And that's in a political game. There are other places where they say people are pushing other people out on ethnic grounds, tribal grounds, etc. And people are calling the police service. How come people are doing this with impunity? How come people are walking around with machetes? How come people are beating people up? And they don't feel that the police is there to prevent these things from occurring? Those are some of the issues that have been raised. And are those legitimate concerns? And if they are you challenged? Is it a logistical challenge that makes it impossible for you to deal with all of this? What really is the situation?
It is not the question of logistics per se. If you take these specific cases, reports have been made, arrests have been made, people have been prosecuted, and investigations are going on. Dockets have been built on several of these cases, and it is a process. I think that the issues started coming up about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Right.
And when a report is made, it takes a couple of days, even weeks or months, to actually get through the processes to the law courts for the final determination of the case. So these are processes that I think people should be patient and follow the procedures that we are. We feel that, yes, the public concerns, we listen, and we also look at, we match them against our performance and see what we can do to improve. Maybe we may have to demonstrate clearly to the public that these are the professional tenets that we are doing. We can combine it with what I said. We can use various forms of communication in addressing that, and people knowing that this is the posture that we have taken, and people must follow it. So the challenges are there, but I think that, again, I want to say that the police are being unfairly treated, especially within this short period. It is rather unfortunate. But, well, those are some of the challenges that we are in as a profession. People would always think that, yes, police is always there to do the bidding of government. But policing has changed. We are talking about policing for the public interest, not for regime policing.
Okay.
So things have changed, and I think that if you put your eyes, your ears close to the ground, you were in Ashaman. I think that if you go to Ashaman now, you can see that the posture of the police has changed dramatically.
Okay.
So these are the things that are happening. I believe if you go around the whole country, you see that things are gradually changing.
I have to take a commercial break at this stage. When we come back, Doc, I'll be asking you about the a point Chief raised, particularly about government or incumbent governments, actually, and the ability or perceived ability to put the police to a kind of use that seems to favor them, and whether really is real or is something that people who don't have power just like to bring up to show up their inability to deliver. Doc, as I said, I was going to ask you, I really will, and find out from you what you make of the claim by some that really governments, irrespective of which government it is, but as long as you manage to become the government, you tend to have some form of incumbency advantage with regard to the use to which you could put the police. And those are not my views. I mean, the use to which you could put the police could annoy the police listening to me this evening. I'm not, those are not my words, but generally that's the view, that governments tend to do these things. And let's be a bit, more current and more filled with example. We know what has happened with Honorable Kennedy Agyapong. Many are believing that his lawyer was on this show. He was actually in the seat in which you were at this week, where he says, for example, that things were smooth, everything was going on well from 8 o'clock. We want a surety. The surety is Honorable K.T. Among. They take Honorable K.T. Among to his house. They go to see the house. They are happy with what they've seen. They process the papers. They're about to release him. Apparently, a call comes through, and then they have to stay there all the way till night or so, simply because the requirement had been met, and yet it seems some power from above or so. And those were his words. Is it a realistic thing that happens, really? Incumbency and police force?
Yeah, let me say that the police force falls under the Ministry of Interior.
Sure.
In terms of logistics, in terms of remuneration, in terms of conditions of service, largely, even if the government of the day is doing its normal function, the leadership of the police will necessarily feel that this government has been kind or generous in resourcing them. So human instinct as it is to say thank you. Yeah, so I would not say that it is completely absent in every human institution. There is bound to be. And the second thing we should also expect is that at the end of the day, for all the preparation, every security agent has a party that is going to vote for. So there is this, what will I call it, a form of affiliation. So from that perspective, these two elements often lead to influence. And you will realize that anytime government officials are moving, the police has to be with them. And from the perspective of influence, even a good food, even a good smile from your boss, the minister, can somehow influence you. But I do not want us to look too much at distance, because we have had experiences in Ghana. For example, at 2000, everybody was expecting NDC to be retained in power. Then 2008, everybody...
It can't be everybody if that number voted.
Well, let me say that it was close, like it won't be everybody, but like that was the general expectation.
Okay.
That it was a slam dunk, but there had been a change in government. So what this brings about is that it wants people to be rather professional.
And as well as 2008.
Yes.
Where again NDC also emerged from opposition
so
to beat an incumbent.
It wants people to be professional. But even that said, that is why we have checks and balances in the system. If the police have been too dramatic in arresting Kennedy Agyapong, they don't have the final say before the law courts. And this has been clearly demonstrated. As for that statement that a call went through, I wasn't a party to that, so I don't want to comment on that.
Right.
But then, as I'm saying, there cannot be 100% proof that the incumbent can either influence or cannot influence.
Okay.
But then the check and balance in the system is that the courts are there, the law is there to make sure that no one has its way. That is why democracy is about institution building. It's about rule of law. It's about what? Checks and balances. What I am more concerned about is when people, because of their numbers or because of their personal standing in society, decides to take the law into their hands. Like at the end of the day today, Kennedy Agyapong is at home. The number of cars that has been smashed. People who are not in any way connected to the case. These are the kind of things that I think we should be more concerned about than whether the incumbent government is being overzealous or is influencing. Because the system, Ghana system is very robust now. And all that is going on, the Ghanaian voter is very, very well informed.
Doc, it's your turn for me to stay with you.
Yes.
Because I know that Chief has a reaction to all of that, but I'll let him hold on for now and build more issues for him to deal with. I'm looking at Article 202, Clause 2. The Inspector General of Police shall be appointed by the President, acting in consultation with the Council of State. And then 2 says that the IGP shall be head of the police service and shall, subject to the provisions of this article, and to the control and direction of the Police Council, control and direction of the Police Council, be responsible for the operational control and administration of the police service. Now, if you go to the Police Council, which he directs and controls him, and is provided for under Article 203, it says that the Police Council shall advise the President on matters of policy relating to internal security, including the role of the police service, budgeting and finance, administration and the promotion of officers above the rank of commissioner. And then it goes on that they may also, with prior approval of the President by constitutional instruments, do certain things, regulations, etc. As I have already said, Act 527, which is an amending act of the Constitution, actually made this amendment where I think it's Article 206, if I am right. Yes. So the new Article 206 says that there shall be a chairman. Previously, it was a vice president, as I said, a chairman who shall be appointed by the President, acting in consultation with the Council of State. Scenario: appointed IGP by President, control and direction by Council of State, Police Council. Police Council has a chairman who is appointed by the President. And that, isn't there an overbearing control over the police service by the President in that regard?
Well, there is something called executive responsibility.
Yes.
When there is failure, the failure does not lie with the Police Council. The failure does not lie with the IGP. So I don't think it's an overly preponderant right of the President to appoint these things. And the most important thing is that there are all kinds of shades of opinion that are represented on the police council. And though there is some level of secrecy or oath of secrecy that certain things that go on in the council's discussion should not come out, if it become overly a burden to the rest that the IGP and the chairman want to have their way, injurious to what? The security, the internal security of Ghana, it will come out into the press. So we have the press as a watchdog that watches over the institutions and the committees that we have. So again, as I'm trying to say is that the president has a responsibility. It is his success or failure. So he has the right, or it is only proper that he chooses the people that he feel can lead. But then again, the police council is so widely represented that he cannot have his way that is inimical to the people of Ghana and then to what? The security of Ghana. So I think that is not so much an issue. Where I think there is a problem is when a politician comes out clearly and directs or forces a security agent to a policeman to act in a particular way.
Okay.
But as I've been pointing out so far, Honorable Nia Shite has been arrested. And he claimed he has been manhandled. I'm not doubting it. And he said he will go to court when it's necessary. On the other side of the coin, we've seen Ajapong, Honorable Ajapong being arrested. So for me, from these two examples, I think the police have been even-handed to a large extent. And one thing I want to warn the public about and ourselves about is that politicians often believe in what? The end justifying the means. So all that they are doing now is just what? Whip up the atmosphere, and people who are not in recognition to show that they are the people fighting for the party, so that in the likely event that the party wins, then they say on this day was the man who was. So they are playing a lot of games, and the public should be careful, and even the press should be more critical than just listening to noise and people acting in dramatic fashion and overblowing things beyond what they actually are.
Chief, I'll coming back to you, particularly about the police council bit, and then we'll move on and talk about those other reactions you have. But Doc says that the police council, someone may argue that really the police council is made up of people who are appointed by the president. Even the members he talks about. One, a person he appoints as chairman. Two, the minister is responsible for internal affairs, appointed by the president. Three, IGP, appointed by the president. Four, Attorney General or his representative, appointed by the president. And then there's Ghana Bar Lawyer, which is the independent one. Retired Senior Police, independent one. Two members of the police services appointed by the president, acting in consultation with the Council of State, one of whom shall be of junior rank. And then finally, two other members appointed by the president. It's almost a 90% presidential appointment on the police council. Will it truly and properly, and Chief is looking in your direction, you know, sometimes when it comes to these professional matters, they prefer they are not the ones who answer the question. And that's why I stayed with you.
Yeah.
But just talking about those other ones and the political use and all of that, I mean, do you, frankly, with us, are there times where you feel the real arm of the executive really pushing the police, as it were, to do its bidding?
You see, if you look at the composition of the police council,
right,
and members now on the council, these are people of high repute, people with varied experiences in public administration and all fields. And these are people who would want to have a police service. If after the term of office of the police council, they would want to have a police service that has improved, the police service that is serving the public interest better. If you go further, the only problem now is that we don't have the regional police committees.
Yes.
If you look at the composition,
which is the final.
Yes.
The regional police committee is the final 204.
For some strange reason, that aspect has not been implemented for a long time. But if you look at the composition there, you will look that it is even more varied. There are people from traditional rulers, civil society organizations are all represented there to serve the public interest.
That's right.
You see, I don't see how government would want to police. You see, one thing that we should not forget is that accountability in policing, there are different levels of accountability. And order from above is not a defense in policing.
Right.
So if you receive an order that go and do this or detain this person beyond the stipulated 48 hours, you're not going to stand in the dock or face the public and say that, well, I received order from. It's not a defense.
Right.
And every police officer knows that. And every police officer knows that in every step that you take in investigating or handling a complaint, it can be verified. There are two people involved. There is a aggrieved person against another person.
Sure.
He also wants certain steps to be taken. Okay. And if you don't do your work properly, they will come and check. How do you handle this case? Those are the factors. So policing is not done in secrecy. In most aspects of policing are not done in secret. They are done in the public domain. Right. And most of the complaints are generated by members of the public who would want to see that they expect to receive a certain level of professional services from the police.
Right.
So maybe it is perception that people have that, well, once government is power, they want to push the police to do the wrong things. But accountability is there. Accountability is there. And I believe strongly that every government will want to have a police service that will be strong enough to protect the public interest. And it makes governance easier for people in government. That is one point that we should.
Is there a special reason why we don't have these regional police committees in place? I mean, this constitution came into effect in 1993. It's a mandatory provision. There shall be established for each region, as you say. Are you saying that we've never had a regional committee?
No, as far as I know, there were, I think in 2005 or so, one or two committees were inaugurated in the Volta region or so. And that is the end of it.
But we haven't had it in all the 10 regions.
I'm not too sure whether they are functioning now. If they are functioning, then we need to know more about them and see what role they are playing, because they are playing a very important role about policing in the region.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because they have the Minister of State for the region.
Yes.
Two most senior members of the police service in the region.
Yes.
Then, which is clear. If you rise there, you will automatically qualify. A rep each of a district in the region, appointed by the district assembly, a practicing lawyer in the region, nominated by the bar, a rep of the attorney general, and then the representative of the regional house of chiefs.
So you see that it is representative enough as far as the region is concerned. So these are the things that I think if you put in place, then people will begin to see that, well, the police is not always under the thumb of government.
Okay.
But the police is an organization that can stay, even live above government.
We'll take a quick commercial break at this time. When we come back now, we'll get into the perceptions, corruption in the police service. Is it really real? Is it something that can affect the politics of the elections and all of that, and people's being swayed and all? Is it really true that our police officers are that corrupt? Talking policing for election 2012 and basically for the whole year, not just in December, because of course the tempo begins, and then, because of the novel nature of the biometric registration, the tensions, as we see, has started quite early. But it seems that the general opinion around the table is that really we've had a few pockets of things, but it's not a general situation for the country, and things are happening well. Doc, the perception of corruption. I mean, I remember the Afrobarometer survey that was put out by CDD in 2005 for people to tell their perception of the most corrupt public institutions. The judiciary featured in there, the police service featured in there, and all that. In fact, I think the more recent Afrobarometer report was in 2008 and all. And we've seen other research material come out. We heard fora after fora, corruption, etc. People keep citing it without evidence anyway. A few times, we know the police service has sanctioned some of its own for one or two acts in that nature. But is that grounds enough for the public to be of the view that, as for Ghana police service is corrupt? They can be corrupted, they can be bought, they can be that. And that's a view. How does that affect an election year like this one?
Well, there is corruption in the police service. But I think things are improving from what it used to be. Particularly in the last few years, there is a lot of improvement. It is so with almost every human institution. As I speak as a research fellow or a lecturer in the university, there is corruption. But then, because the police are the regulative institution, and because they are the law enforcement institution, people come into contact with them very often. So that is why it appears that the police seems to be the most notorious corrupt institution in Ghana. A lot of factors were responsible. One was the element of predictability in the police service until of late, in the sense that their salary was not very good. The conditions under which they live, the barracks that they live in, the type of houses they live in, and that sort of thing were not very good compared to other places of work or condition that exists at other places. If you talk of cocoa board or something like that. But these are people who put their life online first for the society. Wow. So wherever people are not sure about the future, how they are going to retire, how their life is going to be after service or that sort of thing, they try to put things away which are not legal in order to prepare for. But I think with the single spine, you could see that my friend is looking good. He's looking good. Things are improving, and a lot of education is going on. He is taking so many degrees that when he decides even to leave office now, he can be employed somewhere as a civilian. So these attitudes are changing. Then with democracy and the press around, so many things are happening that the police can no more cheat somebody or misbehave. The famous gold, what do you call it, that gold issue that happened, that some police people molested someone and said they will put cocaine on him. Okay. So many very senior officers have been laid off.
Absolutely.
So I think that corruption, the issue is improving with the police. What needs to be done equally is with Ghanaians to be law-abiding and do the right thing. And if you are guilty, let the law take its course. Don't say that, oh, don't charge me, take this and let me go. Because in some instances, it is we, the civilians, who influence the police to have a shortcut. So much as things are being done institutionally as to improve corruption with the police, in the same way Ghanaians must learn to be law-abiding.
But are those issues you raise a worry for an election year?
I don't think so, because most of the force police service people that will be at the forefront of election, there is a special training that is given to them. I think that's the rapid deployment
force. Yeah.
The force. They are trained in a special way, and before they are selected, their histories are gone through. I don't know if that's the right word. Their profile is actually examined to see whether they have lived without guilt and that sort of thing. So I think that there would not be any distance. Again, I want to say that politicians and people who have money should not try to influence. That's the issue. I have been part to some of this training and other things, and one way we found out of influencing security people is that sometimes security people are detailed to stay somewhere. There is no food. So it is the various parties who provide them with food that they are serving their agents. And it came out that sometimes when two takeaways are giving them, sometimes money is in one. So I think some of the training, the things that have been highlighted is that the security people good care must be taken off. And they are, for their ethics, they are even warned that they should not take food from outside. So I think with this kind of training, which is not only done by the government, UNDP, and a number, SIDA, and number, DANIDA people are involved with IEA, CDD, and number, IDEC, number of civil society organizations. I think those police people that will be put up on that, they will be very professional, and they will not be. The problem will be those that are serving as backup or reinforcement, whereby there is violence when they come. That is where sometimes you will have unprofessionalism, whereby people begin to show their partisanship either by whipping when they are not supposed to whip, or keeping their arms folded when they are supposed to arrest. But then I think with all that we are doing now, saying now, and the kind of trainings that are going on, there will be a greater professionalism.
Doc, you sound very confident that this year everything is under control as far as the police service is concerned. Chief,
I'm optimistic.
You're optimistic. Yeah. Chief, are you that confident? You said you're not too happy as far as logistics are concerned. It's okay, but it could be better and all of that. I don't know how if you've had any assurances that things will be given, things will come, things will happen, and all of that. But really, this is April. We have just a few months to go. And do you see a situation where between this time, through biometric all the way to the election and all of that, as we talk about, that your men can definitely be as professional as they should be, and also that there won't be any, backdoor discussions and meetings with people, because people are afraid that we'll have violence. Some are even thinking of, a friend today told me that they should be considering the possibility of flying out of Ghana and all of that. We hear that a lot. But, I mean, if the fact that people said it last time and nothing happened doesn't mean that they will say it again this time. They are saying things like that. And I'm sure you probably hear, because you live in the communities and you know. What are you doing to diffuse some of these fears?
I think we have started this process of electioneering right back from 2011. Strategies have been mapped up. We have had a review of what happened in 2008. We have identified our lapses, a few gaps like the Commissioner of Police operations mentioned. And then we have even started setting up operational orders, and within the next 2 months we should be able to test them and see how they are. We are very committed, and I don't think that we would want to have reports that are worse than 2008. We want to have reports that are better and showing that with the police are doing better. And it inures to all of us. All the police officers will have their chest high to see that, we'll be able to go through this process. So all of us are committed right from the top to the last constable on the ground to ensure that we can come out chest out and say that, well, Ghana police is one of the best in Africa as far as elections is concerned. We have the history, and we will not want to relapse and go back.
But really, we've been talking about 2008 was really balanced on the edge of a knife. People have said so, that Ghana, we should thank God for what happened to that, because we were just a hair breadth away from really having the fire thrown into the haystack or so, and things like that. Nobody actually in all that discussion said anything like, oh, but once we knew the police was there, would have quelled this. People were more like, hey, we have to deal with the leadership. Someone did a documentary, Gareth Mez, an African election. I don't know if you've seen it. He was also on this show. We saw snipers of that on this, and he showed how things were tense in the election room and all that. The political parties, officials fighting amongst themselves. Some actually asking them that go organize our boys onto the street and let's do. All manner of statements were made. At no point do you get a sense that anyone said that, hey, if you dare go there, the police will meet you or something. People were more like, no, restrain them so that something doesn't happen. How are we able to make people feel that confident? That, oh, I mean, the police service is there, everything is under control, that this cannot happen. Why do people rather think that it's a peace talk, let's play documentaries on the TV, let's compare? I've hardly heard people factor the police into it and say, hey, if you try, the police is there. It's all a matter of as if it's just us, and that is all the power. That's the general sense you get.
You see, the point is in a limited good society whereby we do not have the resources as the Americans have or the British have, then sometimes you have to use a soft approach towards things. For example, as we are saying now, the police don't have enough cars. In a place like Britain or Japan, police are just driving by every minute. You see a police car passing by every minute.
And you hear the siren.
Yeah, the siren. So even if a pickpocket is there to act and he sees the police car, that is it. But the few police cars that we have, a lot of them are not roadworthy. Now, sometimes we say the police are the worst offended when it comes to roadworthiness if you look at their vehicles. In the same way, fueling their vehicles is a big problem. Meanwhile, in the other places, there is no limit to the extent to which the police can access resources. So when you do not have these type of resources, then the emphasis should be on education. And I think that it is good to use this type of opportunity to call on car dealing institutions, companies in Ghana, be it Toyota, be it Renault, be it BMW and whatsoever, to make it a point that every year they donate about 10 cars to the police. No, sometimes the government cannot do it alone. So, and then maybe even Multi-TV should be able, if you can, even if it is a TICO you are able to donate, you should be. So we have to resource the police. Not only in the government, a few individuals and corporate institutions have taken the lead, but we need to resource the police. When the police is well resourced, then we can sit back and say the police can do their work. But if you have to call, maybe you call Ashama and they say, sorry, we don't have a vehicle.
Yeah.
Can you provide us with a vehicle?
Which is the situation now.
Is the situation now?
Yes.
You don't have a vehicle in Ashama?
No vehicle.
A place we have described as a hot spot.
Yeah, let me make a point here. When I went to Ashama 3 or 4 months ago, we had only one old rickety vehicle. And that's the only vehicle I've been able to put on the road now. And that is a vehicle that we use throughout the biometric registration period. So that I tell myself, the other time we had a municipal security committee meeting, I told myself, if I could be able to manage the situation with just one old rickety vehicle, if you have 3 or 4, I don't think that people will be worried. So that is a critical point that I think we need to look at, and I'm glad that Doctor has raised it. It is not government alone. It is about institutions supporting the police to be able to deliver. There are a lot of policemen, when I see the dedication, sometimes they come to me, look, there's a problem here, we need a vehicle. Sometimes I have to go and hire a commercial vehicle for that purpose.
Wow.
In Ashaiman, that is a problem that we have. So a little push, I think that most policemen, 80% of policemen, should be able to deliver on their mandate and give Ghana the peace that we deserve.
But that's a very serious matter you raise. I mean, if you're saying that a place like Ashaiman, as critical as it is, you have one rickety vehicle. But you said old rickety vehicle.
Yes, that's
the description that you gave, and that's all that you have, and it's one of the places that we should keep things under control. Then I think that, as they say in Ghana, we shouldn't be ostriches. We should really face the matter as it is and come to terms with the fact that we have not, as a society, as a nation, whatever, put our police in the manner that will make us really have all that confidence. And perhaps that's the reason, the background I gave, where people generally will say, oh, it's up to us, kind of, because if all we have, how many people in Ashaiman rioting, and you have to move from point to point, and all you have is that old vehicle, how do you bring it under control? How do you bring the situation under control?
So I think it is important that people know the real situation as it is now, and look at the efforts that the police are making to, with this even bigger resources, to be able to do what we are doing now.
That may even be the reason why people misbehave, because they know that all you have is a vehicle.
And not only vehicles. This modern day policing, every police person that is sent out on the street should have a bulletproof vest.
Right.
There a number of things that are basic, they don't have it.
Communication gadgets,
they don't have it. You see, so sometimes we over criticize the police without knowing what they are going
So,
to.
Doc, let me stop you right there and ask you, are you confident? Because you said you are confident and optimistic. In the light of all that, in the light of what Chief has described, in a situation where I think we should redress before any time near December and all that, how then are you saying that you are that optimistic, you are that confident that they may be professional? But how professional can you be? Can you imagine making Lionel Messi play without football boots? He would not be the same player, you know. And that's what they may be very professional, but if they don't have what it takes, how do you expect them to deliver?
Well, again, I'm privy to a number of things, and I know
you
that
probably must share those with us and make all of us.
And I know that before the election year, there are a number of vehicles. Some are already being given that will be given to them again. One caution, though, is that most of the time when these vehicles are given, the superior officers sometimes use it for their domestic uses. let me come in. They use it for their domestic uses. Sometimes you see even the siren blowing, and it is children and wives which are being carried while the police don't. While those working don't have vehicle. So I know that there is a lot of contingent plan to supply them with a number of things, but it will never be enough. And as I say, that is why I'm laying emphasis on the soft power, whereby people should be educated that there is life after what? Elections. That it is not a zero-sum situation. If you do not win this time, that is the end of life. Some of us are not politicians.
Okay.
but we leave. So I think much as we are calling for resources, education is the most important thing that everybody should be circumspect.
Thank you. Let's pick some text messages here. Humphrey Aqua in Ashaiman. He says, I reckon the police charges on any group they deem violent vis-a-vis the December election. Okay, I don't know if what you mean that they should charge on people during the elections if they are violent, or you think that they will do so if that happens. It's quite not clear. But Godfred says, honestly, I felt sad when leaders of a party allowed their followers to try and hinder the law enforcement agency like the police. Politicians should allow the law to take its course. Ghanaian youth should be law abiding. Habib, Ghana police should think twice. If not, they will lose their integrity and professionalism, and they should stop being politicians and also being partial. Aliu in Ashaiman says, okay, the Ashaiman guys are really interested. Yeah, the chief is here. It says the Regis forms are now sailing to NDC officials in Ashaiman. What does that mean again?
Regis forms.
Anyway, that's what Aliu has sent to us. And you're saying something is sailing to NDC officials in Ashaiman. Are you talking about some forms? Registration forms, I think it means. That the registration forms are sailing to NDC officials. That's a very serious allegation you are making. If registration form is what you mean. Because you're written RAGS. And the NDC officials in Ashaiman, I don't know if you are trying to say there's some form of untoward activity happening. But, well, that's what you're saying. Sam in Obuasi says, your panel is not fair. They are from the same background. Wow, interesting. Pastor Josiah.
My background.
Okay, maybe he means you are both police officers.
I'm not a police
You know what I mean? That's just on the lighter side. Pastor Josiah in Bong says we should all do the right thing and stop blaming the police. Sam Kumasi, how can you say there are no crises when a Ghanaian speaks and he's charged with terrorism? The culture of silence is back. Okay, your response came from Doc. He says that there are checks and balances, and the court is also setting things right where it disagrees with a tactic. But of course, you also have your right to your view. Charles in Takrady says, let's face facts and say that all is not well because it is these same little troubles here and there that add up to big ones, that culminate into big problems, as you say. And okay, so he says we should also keep an eye. It may be small pockets, but we should, it's those things that come together to make big problems. Bismarck Zenu in Ashaiman. Wow. The police until now have become a remote controlled organization. They allow the politicians to decide as to how to discharge their duties. But when you say until now, it means that it's not happening anymore starting from now. So you should decide what you really want to say. Echo Cape Coast says that the police are doing their best, but there is more room for improvement. Yes. However, they should not dance to the tune of politicians. Charles says, how do we feel safe with the police when the Deputy Minister of Interior, under whose arms the police is, calls crime as being at the wrong place at the wrong time? What do you mean? What he says that if you're at the wrong place at the wrong time, it's a crime. But I don't know about that. I don't know what you're making reference to. So we really cannot associate with that. We disclaim that. Yadamwa Doma Ahinkro, please, when are we going to host the WAEC boss? Because more practices have gotten out of hand. Okay, all right. Okay, we hear you on that one. We'll talk about WAEC and examinations and the more practices that you're talking about. But we really have to get out of the studio. Our time is up. We have to go. But I'll give you 30 seconds each, at least, to round up on the elections. What do you have to say to us from the police service?
Yes, the topic, I'm glad about the topic, is policing elections.
That's right.
Policing is not responsibility of the Ghana police alone.
Right.
We have stakeholders. We have the political parties. We have the various election management bodies that have a role to play. If you put the blame on the police alone, you must also think about what can I do to support the police. That is the best that we can have. And I think that police officers have a sense of pride and they are committed in making these elections peaceful.
And on election day, you are sure everything will be kept under control?
Well, we are taking steps, and I'm sure that we will be able to get over some of these little problems.
And if there's a second round, December 28th, you're sure you'll still be in charge of all of those things?
We've done it in the past a number of times, and we have to improve. And we are listening.
Okay.
We are looking at comments from well-meaning Ghanaians.
Right.
And I'm saying that we are not putting aside every comment.
Okay.
We are taking notes and see which ones we can use to improve security within this country.
Doc, what's your concluding remarks?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic. I know Ghanaians are peace-loving people, and I know everybody wishes well, wish well for this country. all I want to say is that the police are doing a good job out of a bad situation, as we said, in terms of resources. So I'm calling on the general public to help resource the police and prepare them for the election. But on the other hand, I'm calling on political parties, calling on churches, calling on all civic organizations that they should educate their people. Parents should educate their children. And everybody should be each other's keeper. And let's all help make the 2012 election a wonderful one, not only in the police, but every Ghanaian. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We have to say special thanks to, from the far end, Chief Superintendent David Eklu, who's a Shaiman Divisional Police Commander. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you.
And we wish you all the best, and I'm sure that the powers that be have heard you. One old rickety vehicle it's not good enough for a shaman. I'm sure even the society, as you say,
sure,
will hear, and you'll be surprised that people will be donating to you.
Thank
you. Also to Dr. Ken Ahosu, who is a research fellow, Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy, University of Ghana. Thank you for coming as well.
Thank you.
The police service shall be equipped and maintained to perform its traditional role of maintaining law and order is a constitutional imperative. Article 200, Clause 3. I hope that we can do that. They have proven, as a matter of fact, over time, that they are capable. I believe that if we help them, it will all happen. Let's keep the balance, and a lot rests on us as well. We are over 20-something million people. We don't have that many policemen, anything near. So it's a lot of the power is in our hands. As they said, policing is a stakeholders issue, and we can all do it in the communities, etc. And put up the best behavior we can and make sure everything is smooth for our Ghana and our future.